You had a good run, all right? 2 weeks, maybe a month. You were trading less. You were more patient. You were actually waiting for the thing instead of grabbing whatever was moving in the market. And you actually started to feel it, like quietly feel that this is finally beginning to work. It's beginning to click. And you were feeling good with yourself. You actually felt like you made it. After all those months and years that you put into this, you finally made it. And then all it took was one bad day. You had a bad day. And we all have bad days, all right? And then you started to do that old thing again. You went back to your old ways. You started to force another trade. You started moving your stop losses. You started to revenge trade. You couldn't accept the loss. And then you kept going past your daily limit because you promised yourself you'd stop, but you couldn't. And you knew the whole time while you were doing it that you were messing up, that this was not you. This was a really bad day, and you could not let it go. So you close the laptop, and you're burnt out, you're exhausted, you're done for the day. And then the thought arrives. And it's not the thought that this was a bad day. The thought is actually more damaging. The thought is actually, see, I haven't changed. I'm the same person I was as before. I'm back to zero, where I started in the beginning. I didn't get better at all. That's the thought. And that thought hurts, and I get it. Now here's what I want to show you so that if you're going through this, you can get over this. What actually happened was 3 separate things on that day. And if you don't separate them, one will turn into the next. So here's why an old behavior coming back doesn't automatically delete what you actually been building all this time. All the progress that you've been working on is not automatically wiped away. And here's how to tell a bad session apart from a bad strategy that's genuinely stopped working, because sometimes it has. Maybe the strategy really is bad and you can fix that. But this video is not about that. This video is assuming that you have a working strategy and you were doing it and it was working, and then all of a sudden you just lost the touch. You just went off the rails, right? And one thing you can do before you trade again, okay? I'm going to tell you. Because I get this all the time in my audits from my students. A lot of traders keep telling me they describe the same thing but in different versions of the same story. And for example, one guy said, I have a string of consistent days and then I blow them out with one bad day. You see? A string of consistent days. A lucky streak or a good run. A nice green P&L. Maybe you had a nice green month or a quarter or something, right? Because that evidence actually matters. Because the trader can actually execute well. He did everything correctly. He followed the plan. He kept to his journal and his setup. But then one bad day, a blowout day, he forgets all of that. He doesn't remember any of the good work, and all that he's stuck on is that one bad day. And that's you right now, if that's you. You're stuck on that one blowout. All the hard work that you put in, you forgot about it now. And then I had another student come to me and tell me that he had a great last month and he was feeling like he can't have a red day. And for that trader, that good month actually seemed to raise the stakes, right? A red day was no longer allowed to be a normal red day. And that gets a lot of guys. I hear it. I hear a lot of the stories. Most of you say the same things. It began to become a threat to everything good that you'd built that month. All the goodness and all the hard work that you put in, that was proving to you that you were getting ahead. And so the problem that we call this a bad day, right? But we got to separate the three things that actually happen. And that's what I'm going to tell you in this video. So the three things that happen. The first one is the actual mistake. The beginning of the end, if you like, where it starts to go wrong, right? So you force an entry. You're not meant to take an entry, but you force it somehow. Or you moved your stop. You widened the stop and then you took a bigger loss. Or you revenge traded. Or you trade past your daily limit. Right? Whatever it was. And then the trade ended. It was done. So here's part two. The second part. The verdict. What you decided the mistake actually meant. See, it's just a loss, right? But it meant something to you. It was a verdict. The trade was already done. But the verdict about yourself came afterwards. And this gets a lot of guys. And this used to get me a lot too. You'd have all these negative thoughts about yourself. Like, I've changed. I lost it. Last month was just luck. It wasn't really skill. It was an easy bull run. And all I had to do was buy. And I just caught a good wave. You start saying these things to yourself, right? And you start thinking like, this is actually who I am. This is who I am. This is just the way I am. That's the verdict. And that part is hard. Because nobody is gonna ever sit down and understand you, right? Your partner doesn't understand you. It's very difficult. Nobody will fully understand you because everybody else isn't going through what you're going through. Most people aren't trading like you. So here's the third one. The third thing that happens to you. And this is the second wave. Everything you did it because you actually believed that verdict, right? So then you broke your trading plan. You just threw it out. And then you punished yourself. You got revenge on the trade and you went all in. You doubled up. You used more risk. And then you didn't even journal it. You didn't want to, like, remember it, right? You wanted to get it out of your memory. And then you probably stayed away from trading for a few days. So the original lapse may actually be bounded, but the reaction to what it means can create the second wave of damage that becomes actually much larger. Layer 3 is actually where a contained mistake can turn into a much greater damage. So look at that verdict, okay? Not merely the original trade, but how it starts to cost you, that verdict on yourself, right? And what the verdict actually does is that it deletes all of your hard work. All the real weeks of better execution become luck. You know, you're too hard on yourself with that verdict. And then one bad day, all of a sudden, is allowed to overrule 20 better days. That's weird, right? Would you accept that conclusion from anyone else, though? Just because you had one bad day, would anybody else be able to conclude that about you? Would you accept that? And then tomorrow becomes the exam. You return needing to recover the money, or needing to prove Friday wasn't the real you. The first trade is now no longer simply just a trade. It becomes the referendum on whether you have actually changed or not. That's the thing. So now you enter too early, or you become afraid to enter at all, right? Monday is now being damaged by your Friday blowout. And Friday is actually already done. It's finished. It's over. It's gone, right? I had a student that actually said to me, I gave up. I didn't care if I lost the prop challenge anymore. That behavior is now reckless. Once something has actually been written off mentally, protecting it stops feeling important. When you write off all that hard work, now protecting it doesn't feel important. That's the thing. You can't be careful with something you already written off. If you already suggested to yourself that that hard work that you did before, that green run was just luck, then you already wrote it off. You're not going to protect it. So then the process gets punished, right? And then you start to create new rules from shame. You start adding more confirmations, more indicators, buying more courses, getting more knowledge, all of that stuff, right? And then you reduce your trading size as punishment rather than risk management because you're scared, right? And then you avoid to journal because opening your journal now means looking at that red day, that one bad day. You got to see it again. So you don't even want to look at your journal. I get it. I get it. I actually had a student that came to me and said that he shut the computer down for a few days to go and reset and wipe the memory. And then when he went again, he repeated the same mistakes. Trying to wipe the memory, right? Not process it, but erased it. Like get rid of it, like blank it out, like you pretend it didn't happen. You're never going to learn if you do that. And then when you return without learning anything from it, that's when you make more mistakes because it wasn't a lesson anymore. It was just a loss. And now you're really taking a loss because you didn't learn from it. So before we actually make this really psychological, we need to check whether the trading itself is actually the problem. Is the strategy the problem? You have to ask yourself this. Is the strategy tested? Is it a good strategy? Are you clear on your entry? Do you have a checklist? Have you back tested it? Do you know the numbers? Do you actually know it works or not? And you have to be honest. Because sometimes it is the strategy. You can blame the strategy if it's really bad, right? The strategy, the risk model, the platform, or the market conditions may actually be wrong. They might be bad, right? That test is the decision. It's not one day's result if the plan was followed. Did you follow the correct setups? Did you use the correct size? See? Did the stops stay where they belong? You didn't move your stops. And did you respect your daily limit? Results deteriorated across a meaning sample for that tested strategy. Then you got to sit down and then you got to do the audit on that edge, on the risk model, the conditions and the execution, the environment. There is no universal magic number. A scalper's sample is not a swing trader's sample. They're two different people, two different styles. You can't compare them. So there's no universal number. If the plan was abandoned, if you broke your rules, if you forced entries, if you changed size, if you moved your stops, if you traded beyond the limit, then the session shows what happened to execution under pressure, right? Then it doesn't prove that your edge disappeared. One day's P&L can't diagnose the trader or the strategy. There isn't enough information to convict anybody. But if the strategy didn't disappear, why does one lapse feel like it erased everything then? The strategy's still there, but now you think everything's gone. Now you think you got to go back to zero. Because that's when the lapse actually becomes personal, right? Consistency actually means the reaction never returns. That's consistency. Progress means the old behavior has disappeared forever. And when it returns once, the trader actually treats it as proof, right? So I started to self-doubt. This is what my other students said. I felt like I wasn't good enough. Felt like I didn't know what I was doing. That one day made this trader question everything they knew just from one bad day. Then I had another student come to me and say, I don't want to feel like a failure or hate myself for losing one trade or having one bad week. And for this trader, that was the fear underneath it, actually. That was the whole thing underneath that one bad day. So for some traders, the lapse actually starts to mean the disciplined trader that they thought they were becoming isn't real anymore. They're not as good as they thought they were. They're not as close to where they thought they were. They're being pushed back, right? They're falling behind, they're not moving forward. That's what it actually feels like. And that pressure was actually created by the verdict that you gave yourself. That shame creates the urgency. The urgency creates pressure to fix everything immediately. This is the thing that you have to understand, right? And that verdict can actually recreate the pressure in which the old response is more likely to return. So, here's the impossible standard. You compare your worst day with someone else's cleanest results, somebody else's good day. You're there looking at the comparison. You're looking at your P&L, it's red, and then you're on Instagram and looking at them and their green P&L. Everybody else is winning but you. That's what you feel like. So that's the comparison. You see every part of your own trading, right? You see everything when it comes to your trading. You know your losses, you know your wins, right? But here's the problem. You can't compare yourself to someone else online because you only ever see what they let you see. Truth, right? So if progress means the reaction is gone, progress is permanently one session from being canceled, then you can't bank that. It's not bankable, right? So we need a better definition of what progress actually is. And I'll tell you, this is what progress actually looks like. And I'm going to say it very clear so that you understand me. Progress is not never reacting again. It's recognizing it earlier, causing less damage, stopping sooner, and getting back to the process faster. That is progress. So here are the 4 signs of progress. You notice it sooner. And then this time the damage was smaller. You stopped earlier. You returned to the process faster. That is what improvement would actually look like. That's real progress, not your P&L. That is the progress that you need. And you can only observe or notice progress when you have a bad day. Inside of that bad day, how did you react, right? You don't have to wait for the whole month to be profitable before you start to look for progress, right? You can actually look at it in that bad day. And this is where recognizing the response and retraining the response become 2 different things, actually. They're not the same, right? This isn't simply be kinder to yourself. This is understanding the verdict actually matters. Spotting it is a real skill. That's metacognition, okay? And when the same response keeps returning under live pressure, recognition is the beginning. And the work that you have to do on yourself is the nervous system regulation, the EFT and the tapping, the subconscious belief work, the identity retraining. And it takes repeated practice This is the work that you always have to do. It's continuous work. You can't do it once and be fixed forever. You have to keep doing this. You have to keep it up. It's maintenance. This is the real work. What are you going to do? If you don't do this, what are you going to do? Go and find another strategy? Go strategy hop and go get a dopamine hit from buying another course and learning something new? That's not the fix, because then you'll have another blow up. And then you repeat again, right? You got to work on yourself. You have to work all of that into your daily habits, your daily routine, so that the response becomes automatic. It becomes automatic, and then you don't repeat those mistakes. That repetition is what subconscious reprogramming means here. Working with the pattern often enough that the calmer response becomes more available when the pressure is actually real, instead of something that you have to try to summon. But there is one thing that you can do tonight to separate the original mistakes from everything that followed it. All right? Before deciding what the day actually means, you can separate the original event from everything that you did after. What did the first mistake actually cost you? And what did your reaction to it cost you? Right? Explain those two. The first number, the original trade or the mistake, and then the second number, everything that followed. Chasing trades, changing sides, avoided sessions. You may never have separated those two numbers before at all. The numbers make the secondary damage visible, and comparing that with the previous episodes can actually help you see whether you're catching the reaction earlier and containing it more quickly. And you don't need to turn this into some spreadsheet. It's not some big ass elaborate template, right? It's just two separate costs. That's simple questions that you just ask yourself. And I want to be honest about what this question cannot do for you. It may help you interrupt the verdict before it sets. Keep the earlier evidence in view and show you which cost was actually larger. But then the two numbers on Thursday night won't make you regulated the following week. It doesn't automatically release the emotional charge, the trapped energy, the negative block. It doesn't release it. It's still there. It doesn't rebuild an identity based on never slipping. Right? Seeing it clearly and responding differently while it's happening are two different capabilities. The first one is what I just gave you, right? And if you can recognize this cycle, not just a bad day, but what you do to yourself in the days after, that's the part that we actually train inside the Inner Edge Pro. We work with the nervous system regulation, the EFT and the tapping, the subconscious belief work, and the reprogramming, the identity retraining, and the repeated practice. Because recognizing the response is one skill, making a different response more available while money and pressure are alive actually requires training repeatedly. So the link is below. Go have a look. And if it's right for you, I'll see you inside. The reaction returning does not automatically prove you have a permanent character flaw. It's just a response. And a response can actually be worked with and retrained. And if one bad day has made you question whether you're progressing at all, watch 3 signs your trading breakthrough has already started next. It will actually show you some of the quieter evidence of progress that traders miss when they only look at the P&L. And it's on the screen right now. Go click it and go watch it now, okay? One bad day can show you what still needs work. It doesn't get to decide what you've already built, what you've worked on, okay? I'm in your corner and I want to see you win. Goodbye.